Tomorrow night, 8 PM at Stamford Bridge, it's make or break. It's the biggest game so far of Chelsea's season where we take on Newcastle United in the League Cup quarter-final. Right, people, what's happening? And welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. If you are new around here, please do me a massive favour. At the end of the video, if you like the content and you want to see more from myself, hit the subscribe button. Also, click the like button right now. It helps me out more than you can imagine. In this video, I'm going to give my starting 11 that I want to see run out under the bright lights at Stamford Bridge tomorrow night against Newcastle. I'm also going to preview Newcastle, our opponents. We're going to speak about the importance of this cup, and we're going to touch on some of Mauricio Pochettino's comments he has made in today's press conference. Let's get into it. Now, I just want to touch on the significance of this competition, because in times gone by, maybe the League Cup didn't hold that much glitz and glam, and it didn't hold that much importance and significance to us. But at the moment in time where we're at, a League Cup win would feel so good. And we've already knocked out Brighton of this competition, and we'll have to get past Newcastle, who are by no means an easy match. We know what they did to us already this season. They are very much a big hitter. But the draw has been somewhat favourable to us as well. AFC Wimbledon and Blackburn are games that we would always expect to get through. And when you look at the teams that we could face in the next round, I get there's Liverpool in there, and Liverpool will be going hell for leather to win every competition they're in this season. But we've also got West Ham and Everton. Okay, they've both got wins over us this season, but you'd still fancy us going in against them, surely. You then look at it, you've got Fulham, you've got Borough, you've got Port Vale. There's a couple of teams in here that if we were drawn against in the semi-final, I'd pretty much be booking a ticket to Wembley already, because I genuinely think that if we're to get past Newcastle, I'm always going to back us against the Everton, against the West Ham, against the Fulham, and definitely Borough and Port Vale. So when I look at that, what we could do here is lay some really strong foundations to go on and achieve really good things with this young crop of players. We look at Mikel Arteta, and I have often compared where we're at this moment in time to where Arsenal were at a couple of seasons ago, and I don't think you can underestimate how pivotal and how important it was for Mikel Arteta picking up that FA Cup in his first season. And if Mauricio Pochettino could teach these players what it is to win, and Mauricio Pochettino himself, he's never won a trophy on these shores in England, so if Mauricio Pochettino and his players could get this first bit of silverware under their belt. Remember as well when the final is, right? So the final will be sort of not long after Christmas, and there'll still be a significant chunk of the season to play, the running of the season to play. And if we could, I know I'm looking very far into the future here, but stay with me. If we could get this bit of silverware under our belts, I just think it would hold us in such good stead for the rest of the season and potentially put us on the track to have a really strong run-in. But we're going to need to field a stronger possible team, in my opinion, as possible to be able to even think about getting past Newcastle, because Newcastle are a top team. They're in semi-decent form. They've had a lot of ups and downs this season, but when you look at the fixtures that they've had, it just seems like hard game after hard game, and to be able to have pulled off some of the results they have this season, beating Man United and knocking them out this cup, beating Man City and knocking them out this cup, even in the league beating Arsenal, who most people are making title favourites, you know, PSG in the Champions League. If they were to come to Stamford Bridge, and if they were to beat Chelsea and knock us out of the cup, it probably wouldn't eclipse what they've already done this season. So they're very much capable of doing so. And they've got a manager who's very much capable, a side that's very much capable. And as much as when we played them at St James's Park, I sort of banged on about their injuries, their injury crisis, okay, it's making them look a little bit leggy, but starting 11-wise, you'd put them up against most teams in the league and definitely in this cup. So what sort of team do I want to see go up against Newcastle? I want to see as strong a team as I can possibly field. So let's start off with the goalkeeper. We're going Petrovic. We're going to find out a lot about Petrovic in this match, because when he was called upon against Sheffield United, he did pretty well. He impressed me when needed between the sticks, but at the end of the day, he weren't really needed to show his skill set all that much. And in this game against Newcastle, when you got the likes of Anthony Gordon, you got Harvey Barnes coming back, he could be back for this game. Obviously, Isaac, I don't know whether he'll play or not. He's had a few fitness issues. Callum Wilson's just about coming back now. They've got some real good attacking talent, not to mention the guys in the midfield who can pop up with goals as well, like Bruno, Joe Linton and Lewis Miley, the young kid that everyone's raving about at the minute. So Petrovic is going to get tested this game. We're going to see more of him. I want to see more of his ball playing ability with his feet, because I know that already he's a decent shot stopper. Sanchez is a decent shot stopper. If we're just going on about who's a decent shot stopper, we don't really have to look for a new goalkeeper. But when we look at Sanchez's lackluster moments he's had so far with his feet, then we're sort of looking at that and going, okay, we need to see a little bit more from whoever we have in between the sticks. And it's a perfect opportunity for Petrovic, because earlier in the season, it just didn't look like he was going to get a chance. Against AFC Wimbledon, we started Sanchez. Against Blackburn, we started Sanchez. And obviously against Brighton, we started Sanchez. And they were the sort of games that maybe we were looking at and thinking, okay, we could see this young kid, Petrovic, who we've brought over from the MLS, come in here and stake a claim at least to being the number one between the sticks. It ultimately didn't happen. But now we're being told that Robert Sanchez is facing a lengthy sort of time on the touchline, on the sidelines, I should say. And we're also being told that there's no chance that Chelsea are in for the likes of Aaron Ramsdale and any other goalkeepers that are potentially on the market, David De Gea. So I think that Petrovic is going to get his chance. In this match, we're going to find out a lot about him. Right back, we know that Axel Disasi played there in the last match because obviously Thiago Silva came back in to the side after being on the bench against Everton. I wouldn't go for Axel Disasi there. I would go Melo Gusto. Now, Melo Gusto's come back from an injury, but it's not a significant injury. It was more of a knock, and he had some bruising. I think you could correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And we did see him come off the bench for a couple of minutes against Sheffield United. I would go with Melo Gusto there, and I would replace Thiago Silva in the backline with a partnership of Axel Disasi and Benoit Badiashile. And at left back, we haven't got any options. You know, Ben Chilwell is on the road to recovery, we're being told, but he's not close just yet. Cucurella, he's out on the sidelines for a significant amount of time as well. Lewis Hall, a player that is eligible to feature against us for Newcastle. We could really do with him right now because we haven't really got any recognised left-backs at the club. But in Levi Colwill, we have a man that probably half the time has sort of played in that left-back slot. The other half of the time has played in the centre-back slot. Levi Colwill, I think, will be fine there in this match. The midfield three, again, I always say it really does pick itself. It's Enzo, Caicedo and Gallagher. Now, there's a little bit of a decision that I had to make here when I was looking at Caicedo, and I was thinking, because Melo Gusto's just coming back from injury, do we test Caicedo out at right back? But one thing that I want to steer clear from, and anyone that hasn't got the context of this, Caicedo often played at right back for Brighton. He was more of a defensive midfielder for Brighton, but he did play in that right back position sometimes. And I do think that if I wasn't still scarred by last season, I'd maybe say, yeah, let's see Caicedo there and let's maybe drop Palmer into the midfield or something like that and have Gallagher a little bit further back. But last season, we chopped and changed with the starting 11 so much that it was just painful. And it was no surprise that we ended up so far down the league after having that amount of instability within our starting 11 selection. So that's why I don't want to see Caicedo there. I'd keep him in midfield. Enzo, he was on the bench last game. I thought the midfield looked a little bit better without him in it. But I know that Enzo is a pure quality player. And I know that Enzo would not have been playing a pivotal role for Argentina in their World Cup win had he not been a player that is up to playing at this level. So what I want to see from Enzo in this match is a really stellar performance. And Conor Gallagher, we know what we're going to get from Conor Gallagher. He's going to be everywhere. Saying that, everywhere. If you look at heat maps last game, Caicedo, he was everywhere. He put in an absolute shift. I want to see more of the same. I think these three boys are good enough to be playing in the central midfield role for Chelsea going forward. But we really need to see them push through the gears now. And instead of individually having good matches, like we've seen Gallagher do from time to time, Enzo, Caicedo, I want to see all three of them as a unit, as a trio, as a collective, have a really impressive performance in this game against Newcastle. And then we move on to the front line. I think this front line was a little bit tricky because there's obviously a notable exclusion from it, but I am going to go Cole Palmer on the right-hand side. We saw him central attacking midfield against Sheffield United, and he was doing well, but he wasn't sort of pulling strings, was he? And then in the second half, when he was moved over to the right side by Mauricio Pochettino, which was underrated little tactical switch there that he did at halftime. When he was moved over, he just looked electric, really, didn't he? And everything good we did went through Cole Palmer. So I want to see him there again. Nicholas Jackson, he's a player that divides opinion. I always say this. 7 goals, 1 assist so far in 16 games. That means he has a goal involvement in every other game. But sometimes on the eye, he doesn't look like he's creating all that much for himself. There was a time, wasn't there, a moment in that match against Sheffield United when he had the ball on the edge of the area. He sort of cut outside and he pings a shot across sort of the face of goal. And if that had gone in, I'm thinking, oh my God, that's the first time I've seen Jackson really create something out of nothing for himself. I've seen him score a couple of tap-ins. I've seen him have goals laid on for him, but I haven't seen him really just pick up the ball and create something himself like we used to see great strikers of the past do. Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank, Diego Costa, Didier Drogba. I would love to see Jackson do something like that. And when you look at his numbers, you can't argue that they're fairly impressive. But when you look at the fact that he tops the list in the Premier League so far this season of big chances missed, you just look at the numbers he's got. 8 goal involvements in 6 matches, 1 in every other game, and you think, imagine you didn't top that list. I'm not saying you would have had 15 goals this season, but you might even have 12. And if you had 12, we'd be a lot higher up the league, potentially, than we are right now. So I do think we need to see that sloppiness side of his game, that sort of side that almost shits the bed a little bit when the ball comes across to him. We need to see that eliminated from Jackson's game, and it will take time. He's a young player. He probably didn't even envision himself that he was going to be brought in to be Chelsea's leading number 9. So I do have respect for him there, but we need to see it eliminated. It's a good match to do so. He's coming up against one of the better defences in the Premier League on the whole over the last definitely 18 months or so, but he scored against them in pre-season. I know pre-season doesn't hold all that much weight, but he could definitely get on the score sheet again here. We've seen him score in this cup so far already, haven't we? So Jackson, I'm going to start there. And then over on the other side, I'm going to give a run out to Mykhailo Mudryk, who would obviously be starting here instead of Raheem Sterling. Now, I don't know whether I'm doing this to try and be fair and to try and draw a line and get a definitive conclusion on where I think Mudryk's at, rather than thinking he's the better man for the job than Sterling, because I'll hold my hands up. I don't think he is the better man for the job than Sterling at this moment in time. But what I do think is his ceiling's so high and his potential's so high that we just need to give him a run of games to be able to see what he can produce. If, let's say, for example, at the end of this little run of games we have coming up, which obviously have Wolves in, we've had Sheffield United and Everton, which he started both games, and obviously this one against Newcastle. If at the end of this little run of fixtures, say towards the end of January when we finally play Liverpool, a reverse fixture of the opening game of the season, if at that point Mudryk hasn't really, got a couple of assists and a couple of goals, I think I'm going to have my conclusion on him. And that's not that he's a bad player. That's not that he's a player that can't do a job for us. But that would be that he is a player that has not lived up to his price tag. And I know he hasn't lived up to it so far, but I still do think there's hope there with Mudryk. Sometimes he does things that are brilliant. Sometimes he does things that are shocking. And at the moment, if that brilliant to shocking ratio was like 80% of the time he's brilliant, 20% of the time it's shocking, I'd be all right with it. I'd say, do you know what? I can live with that. I really can. But when it's sort of 50-50 as it is at the moment, or maybe more weighing in favour of not doing anything that sort of overwhelms us, I'm gonna seriously have to question that price tag. So I do want to see more from him. I'm hoping in this game we can. Now, you notice I haven't mentioned Christopher Nkunku there, and obviously Pochettino did say in his press conference today that Christopher Nkunku will feature in this game. He was on the bench in the matchday squad for the Sheffield United game, but he didn't get on the pitch at all. I was very surprised not to see him get on the pitch, but listen, Poch knows more than me, and that was the decision he went with on the day. He will definitely get some minutes in this match, Christopher Nkunku. I think it will be around 10-15 minutes. Pochettino said in his press conference maybe 20 minutes or so. Let's see how the game's going. Let's see if the game goes to extra time. Do these games go to extra time, or does it go straight to a penalty shootout now? I'm not sure. You tell me. I think it's straight to a penalty shootout, but we should see Nkunku. One thing I would very much urge you guys at home to do is not hang your hat on Nkunku that much. I know we've seen some players come over and be brilliant from the Bundesliga, We look at, obviously, the likes of Haaland. He come and hit the ground running. Son, Berbatov, Dzeko, who a few people in the comments have said I look like. I don't really see it. I get Dzeko, I get Randy Orton, and Danny Drinkwater. I don't see any of them, but you lot can let me know. As much as we've had those names I've just named, not Randy Orton, I was on about Haaland, Son, Berbatov, Dzeko. If we look at that and we think, well, that's the benchmark, we could also look at Chelsea's recruitment from the Bundesliga in the past and go, yeah, but, Havertz, Werner, Pulisic, Marco Marin. Do you remember him? Marco Marin. What I'm trying to say is we've had a lot of players that have come over from the Bundesliga and haven't been great. Then we have had, players like Ballack who have come over and done a good job. So it's been a little bit hit and miss for us, and I'd say more of the time it's been miss. And for that reason, I don't want us to hang our hopes on Nkunku. I do think if we weren't going through, not a goal drought, but a bit of a crisis when it comes to who's going to put the ball in the back of the net for us, and we weren't in the transfer market potentially looking for a number 9, we wouldn't be holding this much hope, on Nkunku. And when you look at Bowley's signing so far, if we're hoping that Nkunku's going to come in and literally tear it up from the second he comes, what evidence are we going under Bowley's signings? Because, okay, Cole Palmer, that's the one you could definitely say has done that. But, you know, even the better Bowley signings, like a Sterling, Carney Chukwuemeka, Badia Shiel, maybe João Felix, he was pretty good when he came, Enzo Caicedo, they've been decent, but they haven't transformed us when they've come in. So, transformative is not something I'm banking on Nkunku being straight away. I think he'd be a very good player. I think that ultimately we got to look at this team, haven't we? And we got to go, this season, we might not see the best of any of these guys. But next season, God willing, we should be cooking. We really should be. I think this is the perfect opportunity for these boys to build, grow together, and potentially get their hands on silverware. Even if we just get to Wembley, mate, I'll be absolutely buzzing about that, and I'll definitely be at the game. So, I'm at the game tomorrow. I'm hoping to see big things from Chelsea. Let's see how it goes. My score prediction for this game, do you know what? I just do think we're going to pull it off. I think we might win 2-1. I really do think that, but I tell you what, if the last match against Newcastle is anything to go by, we're in for a long, hard, cold night at Stamford Bridge. Guys, I want to know your lot's thoughts. What do you think of the lineup? Have I gone too strong there? I'm guessing some of you would have liked to have seen maybe an Ian Matson in there. So let me know who you would have in your lineup that I didn't name. Let me know your score predictions in the comments. Any of you that get them right, I will pin the comments. And also, I want you to do me one last favour. I have now launched the Joey Knight boxing channel. I've said about it in a few videos before. Anyone that knows me knows that I came from a boxing background before, and I used to box, and I may well be boxing again very soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But if I am boxing, all that sort of content will go out of the Joey Knight boxing channel, because I don't want to dilute the Chelsea content that I'm bringing you guys over here. I remember I was fiddling with the idea of doing videos on other Premier League clubs and stuff, and you lot just really didn't want me to do it, and it's fair play. Like, I really appreciate you guys as my audience, so I pretty much do what you want me to do, and that's why I'm not going to upload any boxing stuff from this channel. I'm going to have it over on the other channel. But if you're into your boxing, I'm dropping some really good content off of there. I've got 2 uploads so far, got another few coming out this week, so it's linked in the description. Please, please, please head over there, subscribe to that channel, and then you can see any of the boxing stuff that comes out from me. Guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of another video, and I will see you all in the next one.